Words from Bruno Gröning about nature. Nature is of course God. What do you at all know about the divine? Man only first finds out how beautiful nature is when he has had to lie sick in bed for months, or if he has had to live in a town, or has been overly burdened with work, worries and misery, and then is so lucky to be out in God's free nature. Wonderful! That's nature, that's God. Then he senses it all as a miracle, an adventure, so wonderful it is. And he who believes that he can withdraw from nature that our Lord has created for us humans, he can go wherever he wants to. They have thought that the one could be separated from the other, that they could turn their back to nature and rather climb the steps of culture. There's the fault, the failure. There lies everything that mankind lacks. Nature. Back to nature. Back to our Lord. Back to the belief in our Lord and on the good in the human being. Man has allowed God's wonderful creation to decay. They have not looked after it. Nature, it tells them nothing anymore. The unnatural, the worldly, is everything to them. We humans, we are dependent on nature. We can't withdraw from it, as some say, away with nature, come into the culture. The culture step is entered, and the natural, the real humanly, is pushed aside. But we are dependent on nature, of what our Lord allows to grow for us. We cannot exist without it. God has given us everything, the semen in which he has stored his decision, to which he has given its destiny, and we have to serve this semen. We shall make the earth useful to us, we shall process it, we shall give the semen to the soil. And then God shows himself in all his splendor, in that which sprout forth from it. Of this fruit we can refresh ourselves, we can strengthen our body. That is how God has decided, and that is right, Bruno said in 1949. And here, let's hear words about the transmitter and the receiver. The transmitter transmits. As I just said, that I stand like a small transformer here on this little divine earth. I am therefore going to talk about the radio. I am the sender, sending the healing wave. You are the receiver, receiving the healing wave. The radio, today a matter of course, it was not 30 years ago. You have also heard of the little Gröning. If 30 years ago I had told you about a radio set, you would have laughed me out. If I had said that a person could speak in Berlin or München and we could hear it here in this little box, you would have said, he's not really wise. It was incomprehensible to humans back then. But today the radio is a matter of course. There was also somebody who knew there was a little guy who could do something like that. And little by little, that too will be as obvious to humans as the radio is today. It's not necessary that you carry the radio with you to the transmitter to hear what's being sent. You just stay home with your radio and tune it at home, and you'll hear the program. But you can never decide what the transmitter should send. It broadcasts its program. Each transmits something different. And so I also send my program when and if I stand in front of you as the sender and you are the receiver, and there is something for everyone. You only need to tune in to one transmitter or the other. People say, I didn't know that. At home I still receive more than when I was with him. It is much stronger. And as you get your health back, it gets weaker and weaker. When the little head is full, you can't fill any more in, then it overflows. The same with the body. When it's full, you cannot receive more. Do not be obedient to humans, friends. Do not be dependent on people, only on one, as it always is in reality. We are all dependent on God. God has not determined that you should serve such a so-called God, a man who calls himself God, who degrades his fellow human beings, who oppresses them. No, friends, God never wanted life here like that. Do not be dependent on people, only on one, as it also is in reality. Every human that is born here on earth has, from his birth, taken on him a special task for this life, and in order to be able to do that, God gave him a body. When someone has acknowledged his task in life and honestly makes an effort to do his best, he has not lived in vain. Therefore, every human being must listen to his inner voice, have the right attitude, and feel what he must do. He who allows himself to be lured and seduced by evil inevitably comes away from the good path to God. Often it's the case that people first have a certain sense of how to shape their lives, but unfortunately they easily allow themselves to be, through an argument that sounds logical, diverted from the foreseen life task of so-called good friends. They no longer listen to their inner voice, thus losing touch with God, and in the end also to themselves. Dear friends, I warn you, when it comes to your future, it is your very personal matter. Ask for recognition that you will receive from God. Only in this way will you be able to hear God and recognize the special task which, when fulfilled, will lead to happiness and peace for the soul. Whoever always listens to other people's meanings never finds himself. See to that you always listen to the inner voice, and never let yourself be led away from the divine path by self-serving or selfish people. You too can be moved. You have also been moved away from your place that God has placed you in. Why? Only because you had become dependent on people and no longer on God. When you once more are dependent on God, you are slowly being led back to your place, the one you were moved away from. Does the human being not want to be free? But from the very beginning he was deprived of the freedom which God had given him, of ignorant men, who merely believed that everything should be such and such, and he had to obey. Then he became dependent on humans. Thereafter he could no longer hear what God said to him. and therefore he no longer stood in the divine guidance. Basically, I do not interfere in the individual's personal affairs, but simply call him to order, and I'm really a role model for him. Listen in silence to your own conscience. Be relaxed and listen to your conscience. Listen to it quite relaxed, to your conscience. Shut off everything that is happening around you. Shut off the words around you and shut off the thoughts about you. Listen inwards and let your conscience tell you what's good and what's bad, and the consciousness will answer you. And as the answer will be, acknowledge it. Then it is true, for your consciousness is your soul, and your soul is divine, is God in you.